Hello, my name is Garrett Maxon. I work for dragonscripting.com. Today you're going to go over one of the three loops that we're putting together for tutorial videos on the fundamentals. This one's going to be a do loop until. Use this to check for something over and over again. I use it basically to check for windows when a window is going to open up. So if you're waiting for Chrome to open up and you want the command to start again when the window comes up, you can use it for that. So it'll do it repeatedly until a condition is met, and then it'll move forward, or it will run it for a certain amount of integers or number of times, which would be predefined, and then before moving on to the next step. So let's go ahead and get into it. We have the command already written out. So up here we're going to have our variables. This is broken into three parts. This is basically part of the error timer we'll go through. This is the do loop until part right here, and then these are our beginning variables. So what I have here is a lot of green, so it's hard to see. We'll take away these. So I have three variables written out. I start, I end, and error time. So we'll just call this error time out. So this is the beginning variable we're going to have. I start, and this is where we're going to want it to end. I end, and then in case things go badly, we're going to have a timeout at 10 instead of 9. So we're purposefully doing it at 9, accidentally doing it at 10. Now with loops, if you don't set up a loop correctly, or for or a while, those are all different statements that are functions. If you don't set them up correctly, they can cause your program to crash, or even as far as making your computer not like making you have to shut down and restart again, or turn off the application that's running it, because it'll run in the background. And here we have a message box that's on that we're going to use, and that'll visually show us, and it'll actually stop the program. But you have to be careful with these. But when you start making these, make sure you save everything that's on. Make sure you close everything down, just in case it gets wild, and you have to turn it off. So, anyways, this is going to be where we're starting at. We're starting at 0. We're going to end at 9, and just in case, we're going to have an error at 10. So here's the part: is do this set of instructions and loop it until I start, which is our beginning variable, 0 equals I end. Or for the error timer, error timeout, those are correct, okay. Or if I start is equal to error timeout. So what this is going to do, it's going to wait for 0.2 seconds, which isn't really necessary in this. You can just take that out. So what we have is that can be for a set of time. Like if I'm setting something up to look for a window that's opening, which is a whole another command in another tutorial, which would remove that. If I'm looking for it to say wait for my command editor to open up, I want to put a certain amount of time there to wait before checking again, because otherwise it'll zip through 0 through 9 really quickly. So I want to say I want to wait, and I want it to check every 0.5 seconds, which would be 4.5 before it times out. And 4.5 seconds may not be enough time for, say, Word to open up on your computer, or Photoshop to open up on your computer, a more complex program to open up. So that's why this is in here for this demonstration. We don't need it though. So what we have is message box I start. So this is going to tell us what variable we're on, or what the value of the variable I start is each time it loops. And then each time it loops, it's going to take I start, the variable, and it's going to add 1 to that variable. So it's going to go up from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 every time it loops. Now I want it to stop when it gets to 9. Now that's what I'm doing on purpose. Now if something goes wrong, I want to have something that is accidentally there as well, that may be longer, so that way it's kind of like a backup or a plan B. Like I could set this to be 100 if I wanted to, and it would just, eventually I know it's going to end at that point. You can have stuff in here that has, waiting for a window, and maybe that window never comes up. Maybe that program's broken and it never, my command editor never shows up, and so you don't want your command just sitting there waiting for something that's never going to happen. You want to have an error timer there that when it hits that like time out, let's say 15 seconds go by, you're like, okay, there's an issue. You don't want your command to just sit there and loop. You want it to time out on something that is given. In this case, we have two things that are defined that we know is going to happen, so it may not make sense in this case. But having it for, again, opening up something like a Chrome or another program that may not open, you want to have that there just in case, because this part will be maybe it'll happen, you want it to happen, but maybe it won't happen, but this is definitely going to happen with inside the command itself. Anyways, so do message box start, and so we're going to just go ahead and run this, and then this is my statement. If it does reach an error timeout, it's just going to tell us that we did it. It's going to say iStart is equal to error timer. So if iStart is equal to error timer out, change that around, then give us a message box saying timeout error, and then exit the program, the command. So we'll run it and we'll see it's going to do it. It's going to start message box iStart. Now if these two were swapped around right now, this would say 1 because you're adding 1 to it before you're doing the message box. So it's going to do it. It's going to loop around 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so then it hit 9, so iStart was equal to iEnd, and so it stopped. So that's why we didn't see 9 on there, but we only saw 8 because it didn't loop again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then no 9, because as soon as it's equal to 9, iStart is now equal to iEnd, and now it ends. Okay, so we'll change this around and we'll do the error timer around. Let's say iEnd is set at 15, but we actually let's do this instead. Let's do 9, and let's just take out the D. Let's say we forgot the D there, and so we're going to have error timer set to 10. And so what's going to happen is iStart is going to be equal to error timer, and it's going to continue on, and then it's going to hit this if statement and then give us this message that there was a timeout error. So 0, blah, blah, blah. Okay, 9, and then 10, timeout error. So it went past iEnd because iEnd doesn't work anymore. We took out the D, and then it passed by that and it went into our error checker. Now this is one way to do it. This is a form of error checking. When you start doing loops and you want to have timeouts, you'll have different things. Go-to is also really good for that, or using a case of what type of timeout error it was. You'll get into that, but this is obviously this tutorial is about do loops instead. So that's how this runs. It just every time it'll just loop through until the variables are met at the end here. This is good for, again, counting. I use it primarily to look for windows that are coming up, or if you do want it to count. You're not really turning this off, you're more or less waiting for something to happen that turns it off, which makes it different than a while. And then for they all have their own little things about them that you'll discover about where you like to use them. But that should be about it. So make sure you get your commands right, or your variables right. That way you don't go running out of control. And I think that will be it. So thank you for watching. Please give us a like and some feedback on this. Let us know if you have any questions, something doesn't make sense. And then check out the website. It's dragonscripting.com for more commands and tutorial videos. We also have a mailing list that you can sign up for on the website itself, and you can get all the latest updates as far as tutorials or commands. We're going to be getting out of fundamentals tutorials, and so a lot of the tutorial are going to end up going on the website instead. So check out the website, check out the mailing list for more advanced things that are going on. The fundamentals should probably should get you good with basic commands. They can even create a lot of complex commands with them, but this should be good for a lot of people. If you have any questions, let us know. Thank you very much for listening.